Hello! Today we're doing a general use master tier list. This is basically not really centered around team play. Maybe it's your norms games or maybe some solo ranked with no predetermined strategy, tournament with no predetermined strategy. Just characters that, how useful they are if you're playing solo and, their general power level. A lot of characters get stronger in 5v5, like pre-mades, so it's not always going to be something where you might look at this and be like, oh, what the heck, Tulam is insane, why did you place him so low in team play? Well, that's because this is just kind of a general tier list. If it was Tulam before he got nerfed, in random, solo play, he'd be much higher because he was insanely broken and he could easily just tear up the streets by himself. But this is basically how it's gonna go. I just wanted to give a little preamble. I'm also gonna kind of mention skills. Because certain characters are a lot worse with certain skills than others. So that also kind of determines their placement. We're going to start with Merope. Oh, give me 1 second. We're going to put Merope in double A tier. And this list isn't going to have a overall order in the tier. I feel like that's just splitting hairs with a roster like this. So I'm just going to, just put them where they land, and that's how it's going to be. So Merope, really good solo character if you're just playing by yourself. She's really good nuker. She can push waves very well. High damage. She has some counters that are pretty obvious. Anybody that evades skills pretty well, or tags and moves in the right direction, can just completely ignore her ultimate, which is a 2-charge ultimate. One of the best ults in the game in terms of damage, and if it lands. You don't want to take Vector Strike though. If you're taking Vector Strike, she drops probably somewhere here. I don't really recommend you take that skill. Conversion Battery is really good. Defensive skills, you can cheese towers, like 5 shots of the tower that way. Conversion Battery is not really good against like rapid fire characters like Tajin though, so your shield's gonna get eaten very fast. Which you would think, being a blue character, that wouldn't be a problem, but if they have a good tag like Jingtai or something, then you're gonna try to nuke Tajin and he's gonna say no and tag and just mess you up pretty bad now that your conversion battery's gone. But that's matchup dependent stuff. But yeah, you can go double nuke with like Salvo plus Devastator, or you could just take conversion battery or one of the other two that I just mentioned, because it's really up to you at that point. But that's all I have to say about Merope. Now Maya is certainly a character. Oh boy, ads. I didn't expect ads to be on this playlist. I thought my ad blocker would fix that. Actually, I don't even think that was an ad. Oh, 1 second. Something is wrong with the MXM soundtrack playlist. Somebody put something that does not belong here. Sorry. I don't know what that's all about. You know what? Let's pause that music real quick. I'm gonna go find a different playlist for y'all. Hold on. One moment. Sorry for the delay in the recording here, but I thought that was funny that somebody is either YouTube generated that playlist or somebody put a video that was like an ad that was like an hour long in between all of this. Man, that's wild. It's one of those things. Search is getting worse on YouTube and in Google. So just trying to find what you want is horrible these days. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's in the official NC. Whoa, weird. I guess we'll just have to go over to NC Sound and get our MXM playlist started from there. There we go. Oh yeah, now we're cooking. Oh yeah, so anyways, back to the topic at hand here. Maya. Anyone want to guess where we're going to put Maya? So outside of team play, there's some things to know about Maya. Savior Protocol is one of her best skills, but it's also one of her worst skills, so that depends on your ping. So if you're not on your local ping, if you're in EU and you're playing on EU server, or NA playing on NA is what I mean here, and you have like over 100 MS, Savior Protocol just has a chance to not work, so you can't really use it to dash you and your teammate around, and that hurts the character. But that's actually not why I'm going to place her in C tier. The problem with Maya is her ult time's really long compared to other characters like Vita, who has an insane ultimate with a short cooldown. You can run moves on her, pretty much any moves gonna feel about the same. Combat Protocol is kind of a must. MXM is very damage focused game. So you're going to want to take that and one of the other skills. If Savior Protocol was working, and you could probably bump her up to here, but since we're still focused on team play and not, since we're focused on general play and not team play, I'm going to put her down here, because you can accidentally kill your teammates pretty easily with Maya and yourself if you're not making the right decisions. And this is for the kind of like the average player. So she's unfortunately going to have to sit and see. I think, again, if it was a team-focused tier list, she might even land up here, or here. But since it's mostly focused on solo play, we're going to place her in C. It's unfortunate, because I really like Maya, and she's not a bad master, but just running into randoms and trying to play Maya is often a mistake, especially if you find out you're on the wrong server. Just don't be picking Maya without a game plan, or it's going to feel very C. If a worst case scenario, she's going to feel like D, which I put not viable. Like if you're in D or F, basically don't play this character. But no, she's definitely playable, so we'll put her in C. And next, MBA. Now I did say this tier list is for an average player. MBA is very strong though. He has a little bit of a learning curve because his attacks function differently. And this is assuming you're taking at least missile salvo. If you're taking at least missile salvo, he can be AA. If you're not, and you're playing solo and you don't know the character that well, he's going to drop down. But this is a very strong character. Disruptor for self-peel into salvo is very, very strong. And just learning how those skills work from testing him around and playing him solo. You can do a lot with NBA. You can clear waves, nuke people. Now his ultimate, it's not really a very good ultimate, despite the rest of his kit being very strong. So if you're using his ultimate wrong, he's gonna feel like he's down here, maybe even here. But no, you don't really use NBA for his ult. Don't be tricked by the fact it's like a big nuke. You have to use this far away from any enemies, because if you get caught out, you can't really tag. You have to cancel the ult, and there's a delay on everything. So if you're using everything right, NBA is going to be up here. So for the average player, if you don't really fumble his ultimate and think you should be hitting it a lot, he's going to be pretty strong. Now next, we have Suzuka. Suzuka is kind of the same thing. Very small health pool, similar to NBA. Her survival skills not as good, but you can use it offensively by blinking towards enemies too as well with hers, but then you can't blink away. Which leads me to the fact that Suzuka has a very small health pool, one of the smallest in the games, but she also has some of the best sustained damage and burst damage. So if she's on you for a long period of time or ults you, you're gonna suffer. Just about any combination of her skills are pretty good, but It's one thing to note that most people either like stealth or something, but usually you're seeing Suzuka's play Rending Blades and stealth, or like stealth and like Caltrops or something, but I definitely recommend you use like Rending Blades plus something. She's gonna be really good at assassinating people. Use her ult for the iframes. You can use Caltrops for iframes. But yeah, you can just take people out really quick, especially the squishies in the game. But just be warned that she has a very small health pool, so if you're playing too risky or you don't understand certain bursts, she's going to feel more like a strong A or maybe even a B if you're not aware of that. But if you are, she's going to feel really good. You're going to do a lot of damage. You can get objectives like Tannian, Rosark if you know their patterns, and you won't die, but you'll deal a bunch of damage. So that's something that I recommend, is if you do want to play her, just be aware of that small health pool. You're going to feel pretty bad about playing the character, and you're going to get nuked, and you're going to feel like that. But overall, you can push lanes and kill people pretty well, get towers, objectives. The Suzuka, very strong pick in that regards. Now, Tulam. You're going to wonder, where's Tulam go? He's pretty good in team fights. And he is, but that requires some level of coordination in MXM. And when you're playing solo and you not really have a strategy, he's going to feel like a pretty B-tier character. When he works really well. You're going to feel like he's up here. When he doesn't work well, you're going to feel like he's down here. But the thing is like Tulam, he can CC chain, and that's awesome. And assuming that's the route you take. Some people take him Knuckle Duster. I think if you're taking Knuckle Duster and not trying to CC chain people, probably down here, but I can see why in solo play you would take Knuckle Duster for damage, since you might not be coordinating damage with your team. But I think he's fine here in B tier. Before his nerf, I mean S tier. Solo, pre-made, didn't matter. The character was insane. But they nerfed him, not to the ground, but they certainly made him not as prevalent as he once was, way back when. Now, the next character I have is Sonid. Sonid is going to A tier. Sonid is a very useful character. He's a sniper type character. You charge your primary, you shoot far, you deal big damage. He can get a lot done with his regular basic attack, and that's pretty useful. I think if you're not taking Catcher's Mitt and you prefer a combination of his other two skills, this is a fine placement for him. I've seen people make Catcher's Mitt work, but I think if you take Catcher's Mitt, it's probably going to be something like this. But I think he is pretty useful with his evade skill and his dash skill that gets, like I should say his evade survival move is pretty useful, but his dash skill that gets him towards people or knocks people down is quite good. I think if you're taking that, that's probably going to solidify him very well in your pick, because you can get out or get in and knock someone down and then combo them with like Scatterball or just Firecracker, plus your ultimate. And there's a lot of patterns and combos you can do with Sonid. In team play, I might actually put him higher, but since we're not talking about that, he can land here. And that's fine, because Sonid's a pretty awesome character. It's one of my favorite characters in the game. And can't go wrong with Sonid. Personally, when I play him, I feel like he can go up here, but since for a general tier, I'm going to leave him here. Then we got Beamerang. Beamerang's an insane character. Basically has no cooldown. I don't think she's broken. She's good, very good. She counters pretty much all ranged characters with ranged autos, which is pretty relevant because most of them are very good. If not, at least very solid characters. So she counters pretty useful characters. She can cheese Tannians, Rosarks, protect fallen heroes from people trying to shoot through their wall. That's a funny way of explaining that, but yes, that's what she does with the ring blade. And she can throw a blade pretty much all the time, no matter which one you pick. You can CC people with the knockback one, or just throw the ranged poke one. It's the only one that you probably don't want to take is the one that like splits into a bunch of hits And I'm trying to remember the name of that one. Give me 1 second and I'll tell you. I think it's Scatterblade. I think that's the name of the skill. It's the only skill that she has that if you take it, yeah, Scatterblade. So yeah, if you take Scatterblade, she's gonna drop significantly. But if you don't, I think no matter what combination you go with, thinking that you know what you're gonna do with it, she can stay in S tier. You just have to have a game plan in mind, because if you take a combination of skills that's weird, or they have no range characters and you're taking the spin blade, I mean the reflect blade, which is called the ring blade barrier. If you're taking that and they don't have range characters, it's not gonna feel very good. So you're gonna lose some value. But otherwise, very strong. You basically make Tulam one-shot himself if you ring blade on top of him. Ring blade barrier. It's very funny, but that's just like a specific case. But yeah, very strong character. Not broken, but very, very, very useful. I mean, you can push lanes, you can deal damage in fights, you can 1v1. She has a little bit of everything going on. And not to mention, again, she just has no concept of cooldowns because of her passive mechanics. So you just keep tossing stuff out. It feels good. And that's a little bit hyperbolic, but yeah, it is what it is. Next character, Pankuga. A tier. You might say, but Pankuga's so good, and that's true. However, I would put him here otherwise. But he requires mechanical skill, and you have to know what you're doing and timing things very well, and this is kind of like for the average player. Very good damage. If you do your setups very good killer. He can do objectives if you do it right. But yeah, if you take work the body, we're gonna have to see him here or here. Don't take that skill. That's pretty much all I'm gonna say. You basically have to take light stepper for him to even be here or here. But yeah, don't take work the body. You're gonna feel like awful. Yeah, so don't do that. Other than that, very good character. You know, combo and evasion driven character. Quite good if you know what you're doing. Cat the Cat goes in S. I don't think that's a shocker to anybody. Very good survival skill. You take King the Cat and I think it's Mew the Cat. Pretty sure that's the name of the skill. Either way, it's whatever isn't Kai and Queen. Kai and Queen basically don't get taken. You take the other two, you just lock down somebody by button mashing. Not a very high skill character to get a very high reward. If there's team fights in your game at all, pretty much Cat the Cat will ruin all of them and make it very easy for your team to kill everybody. This is even more true in norms when you can have two cats. Two cats basically breaks the game, makes your opponent's not able to do anything. Very much don't like that about this character. That's just an objective truth to the character, is he kind of ruins norms with two copies of him. In ranked, it's not as bad, but they still basically don't have to do a lot to get a lot of value out of Cat the Cat. So if you just wanted to play an easy character that does a lot of value, Cat the Cat is your way to go. Just don't take Kai and Queen to Titan Ruins, unless you really know what you're doing. But even then, those skills are very outclassed by the other two being paired together. So yeah, Cat the Cat is still pretty dominant even in 2025. Cat the Cat can be an S tier. Now, Death Knight, oh man. Death Knight is the noob Bane character. People who don't understand Death Knight be like, oh man, Death Knight's so strong, but he's actually not that strong. He's an anti-caster character. When everyone's doing burst damage on skills rather than base attack damage, Death Knight's S tier. All you gotta do is right click, prevent all the damage, and you can just stay in the fight all day. But since this game's realistic and your opponent has 10 characters, and not just 5, and you can't just outright counterpick them with Death Knight, he's kind of here. Again, he lives forever, doesn't really do a lot of damage unless he's on you forever, which is something he's good at. But if he's CC'd, which he can be, he's really not that big of a threat. His passive works once for every 5 minutes, There's just a lot of issues with the character, despite him being one of my favorite characters. I play him all the time, but I know his strengths and weaknesses. If you play him to his strengths, he can feel like here, but for average player, he's probably gonna feel here. If you take Hellfire, this character's like, hate to say it, but he's probably here, maybe even here. Just don't take Hellfire. That's my one gripe about the character is he's kind of like for Titan Ruins and engaging and disengaging. Scalar Crash is pretty much a must pick, which hurts his kit, which kind of leaves him down here because he has to have the mobility. You can argue that he always has to take Skull Crack, and I would mostly agree with that. I used to play him Scalar Crash Quickening, but yeah, Skull Crack makes him feel really much better. But I feel like in solo play, unless you're a pretty above average player, he's gonna feel like a B tier character, and for good reason. But when he's playing against skill damage characters, it feels very good. But outside of that, he's not a good pick when he's CC'd and hit by characters with good attack damage. So he's gonna stay in B. Next character, Koom. Koom, kind of the same. He has a similar thing to Tulam, where in solo games, he's gonna feel not that great, but when you're coordinating with your teammates and your teammates know who to go after, and you're walling people off in the jungle or walling off your team to safety in the jungle, he's gonna feel like a solid pick. I mean, like, maybe not S, but like he can do some cheese stuff. Like team play, I put him there, but for this list, he's gonna go here. Because when your teammate doesn't coordinate with you at all, Koom doesn't feel great. He's got one of the worst basic attacks in the game. He might even feel like here a lot of the times. But his abilities actually function in every game. We're going to put him here, so he's still useful. I play Lua Koom, and in solo games, and it goes pretty well. That's probably because Lua's strong. We'll get to that a little later. And our next character, Cagnazzo. Cagnazzo, very strong character. He's great at dueling. He's great in team fights. With the right master pair, you can clear and push waves, and then switch to Cagnazzo when you're in danger on low health on your wave pushing character or your damage character, and you can become CC immune and just go to town on people. Gets a ton of skill power from his ultimate, range on his attack from his ultimate. It makes his attack do more damage. It's actually a very easy character to understand. You take like Crushing Swing or the Leap or the Fear. This character is pretty good that way. Ripline is kind of a ping dependent skill. If you're playing on bad ping and you take Ripline, the people on good ping are just going to dodge it every time and it's going to feel awful. Most of the time, I'm not going to recommend taking Ripline unless you really know what you're doing. I would just take a combination of the other three skills. And that's going to do you a lot better. If you take Ripline and you're on bad ping, he's going to feel like here, maybe even here. So that's all I'm going to say on that character. Very good solid character. This is like a definition of your good bruiser tank, and can't go wrong. Vonak. So I did some thinking. I wanted to put Vonak in S because he's very strong. But the reason he's very strong is because he's the best jungler in the game, period. Hands down. And you're like, oh, isn't that good enough to make him S? Well, for the average player isn't going to participate in a lot of fights if they're just trying to play him as the supreme jungler that he is. And he's more so going to just try to do lanes or objectives. And that can either make or break for a team, because he's either going to throw your Rose Arc and he's going to feel like, just get this guy off my team, or he's going to get it for the team for free without anybody noticing, and you're going to feel like he's the best guy on your team. He's got insane burst damage too, but you have to have good aim. So, I mean, if your aim's bad, it's not a great character for anything other than jungle. But if you're really good at like whip shot or unload, then we can put him here. But average player, just playing the character to do the general task he's the best at, like towers and objectives, without him being hunted down. If you can get away with things for free, Vonak's a solid AA character, 100%. Next, we have Ignuma. Ignuma is going to be buddies with Maya, unfortunately. Ignuma is a strong character. He's one of the only characters in the game with 30% skill reduction. But he's a very skill-dependent character. The average player is not going to really understand his mechanic or what he's good at. He's good at living, and he's good at dealing a surprising amount of damage for a character that otherwise doesn't do a lot of damage at first glance. And his skills are actually very useful. He's hard to CC under the right conditions. But outside of team play and solo play with not a lot of coordination, you're not going to get a lot of mileage out of him. He is a good tag partner with the squishy though. And if that's what you're taking him for and you're getting a lot more out of him, he can move up a bit, which a lot of players generally do, but he requires a good understanding of game knowledge and matchup dependent stuff. If you're just playing him for general purposes, you're, average player, maybe newer player, not a great pick for you, I'm gonna say. There's better characters to hop into the game and try to learn. If you do learn the character and you do get good at the game, you can go up. But generally, outside of team play, he can't go up and just solo. Now, in the hands of a player who's played the game a lot, played it competitively a lot, he can. But I'm just saying, general use for Ignuma, not great. He's just going to stay down here. Demonos. Demonos is definitely a character crutched by not by solo play, and just his general kit is very useful. But if he gets caught alone, he's not very good. But I say a lot of negative for him, but I'm still putting him in A tier because when you are able to link up with somebody and do a bunch of stuff, he's very good. That's why in higher, like in team play, he's gonna definitely go up there. But I'd say in general, he's just a good player character. But you get caught alone on this character, and without the right skill, he's just not great. He's just a buddy character, very good partner to have, but solo, not great. Which brings me to the next character, is Zero. Unfortunately, in the MXM Reborn beta right now, Zero's not playable for some reason. Devs haven't really told us why he's not playable at the moment, but he was in 2017. So I'm just going to go off what I know from back then. Zero, pretty solid character. You put marks on people. Then you use his abilities to activate the marked characters, and you'll do a range of effects to them, including damage, based on the different effects of the skills you take. So basically, you play the mark, then you consume the mark to do stuff to the people you marked. Pretty useful character. In team play, he can be a much higher character, because his abilities are very strong when they work well, and when you have called out people. He's pretty okay in a one-on-one, pretty annoying in a one-on-one even, especially with the stun skill. But yeah, he's a good character. I wish I could say more, maybe put him somewhere else, but since we never had a lot of time with Zero, there's not really, I can't really mess with him too much, but yeah, I remember he had a really useful ceiling, and he was pretty average otherwise, but I don't think A is for average necessarily. I think he's a solid pick, so A is not for average, it's just for solid character, so can't really go wrong. Yoharon is not released yet. They said on MXM Reborn they might try to implement the data mine characters. They seem to have all their skill data and stuff from stuff I've researched. So one day we might see Yoharon, but today is not that day. But in the future, maybe I'll make a new video. Maybe these placements will change, and we'll see her actually get placed in a tier. And that'd be epic. Anyways, Ghost Widow. Ghost Widow took a lot of nerfs back in 2017, but is still a very good character. Does not take a lot of skill to play Ghost Widow. She has one of the best evasion skills in the game. She has a good survival skill. She has a bunch of point and click abilities that do damage. You can't really go wrong with that. Very easy. When people swap, you could just ult them on Ghost Widow and they almost insta-lose. Because they're out of their tag, and now you're choke holding them like Darth Vader and shooting them with energy blasts. So yeah, it's insane no skill character. even after nerfs, pretty useful. She used to be here, perhaps like an S plus tier before she got nerfed. But she's still very useful, and she can push waves and kill and just be a general nuisance. Can't go wrong with Ghost Widow. In coordinated play, she may even be better, but that makes sense. But she doesn't even need to be. She's just a solid character. She's a bit squishy though, so if you're playing her wrong, it's gonna drop her down. But it's really not a lot to explain. She has a win button ultimate, and as long as you don't move during that ultimate, you should kill someone who's tagging to a new character. And if it's a really tanky tank, you'll at least bring them down to like half or something. And then if you still have your tag, you should win that 1v1. So good character here. Really annoying to play against. I don't think anybody would argue against that. Anybody who's tagged to like a full health character and just died to Ghost Widow for free because of her ultimate can understand why she's here. Now, Erna is pretty good. But she is one of the squishiest characters in the game. If you're not playing her right and you're getting picked off a lot, she's going to feel like here or here. But if you're using her burst properly, and most of her skills are pretty useful, find a lot of applications for them. But overall, high DPS character. Her ultimate has no cooldown, so you can use it for each ult charge you have and just kind of blast people in an AoE around you. Needs a good tanky swap in my opinion, because again, really easy to burst her down. Sonid, basically him over here, can just one-shot him with her with a basic attack full charge sometimes. That's kind of the attunement system's fault for that. So yeah, I mean if attunements didn't exist, this tier list would probably mix up a bit. Which hopefully one day we'll see, but for now, squishy character does a ton of damage, and CC through stun, through her ice, it's kind of a stun effect. That's basically how you can explain it, but when she puts stacks on you, you get frozen, might as well be a stun, so good CC, good damage, generally useful character, but again, squishy, so if you're not, you're still kind of new, you probably won't see her use, but if you take the moment to learn her and realize where she's strong, where she's not, it's going to be a useful character for you. Jinxian, pretty easy character. Most of her skills are really good. It's just finding the combination that works for you. Her ultimate is easily one of the best skills in the game. Sometimes, based on who she's tagging with, she can feel like a character that's like all the way in S tier, but because she can just lock you down with her and her tag partner. But yeah, you really can't go wrong. She's a bit squishy, so if you're not timing your survival skill right, you will get bursted and it will not feel great. But if you time things right, you'll live on longer and be able to CC more and hunt people down and get picks and stun with your ult, maybe even the whole enemy team. It's a very useful character. It takes a moment to kind of learn, but you just basically attack twice to get your soul blades, and then you just want to be at max soul blades all the time, so you just attack all the time, keep your gauge up, and pretty easy character to play. But again, even though they are kind of easy to play, you can play it wrong still and get caught and get bursted down and die. So it's really how you want to do it. Cheap pull, you can't go wrong. But cheap pull's a little worse on ping because people can evade it by jumping. But if your opponent is on bad ping and you're playing Jinxian, they basically can't avoid it, so you're gonna get like a full combo, and they're probably gonna die. So yeah, Jinxian very strong. Jinxian S tier on when your opponent's on ping and you're not. But other than that, I mean double A. I mean, very strong character. Now Crowmead, very solid character. Pretty solid in solo play. Good dueling potential. Aether Pikes is very annoying in Titan Ruins. Very strong. If your opponent tags while Aether Piked, they're still gonna be Aether Piked, which is on their new character, which resets the duration. So honestly, she sometimes feels like a Jinxian because of that. But she requires good aim for her basic attack. Her other skills like I would say Aether Pikes and Blot Out the Sun are the most popular moves. Um, and those work really well together. Gale Force Arrow takes some skill, so sometimes people who aren't as good at aiming it will drop it down. But generally, we're gonna say Chromede, pretty good, pretty solid character. Pushes waves, can do objectives, can kill players, pick people off. Her ult's pretty good in team fight type stuff. But she gets even stronger with coordinated play. But yeah, solid character, can't go wrong. I'd say she's here, maybe even interchangeable with Jinxian in the right situations. But as a range character, she takes a little bit more skill for the average player to play. You know, outside of using her ult, anybody can use her ult. It's pretty easy. But yeah, easy, solid character, can't go wrong. Just if you can blot out the sun and pikes, you'll run out of mana fast, and that can make her feel more like this A rather than a double A. But outside of that, solid character. I take her a little more unconventional personally. I will take Gale Force and pikes. I'd just be like a CC annoying guy. Just does a lot of poke and like tries to chain people up with Gale Force combos. It's fun, but yeah, I think she's a solid character. Fun character, solid character. Lua, I don't think it's too much of a surprise, but S tier. One of the best passives in the game. Makes her ultimate cost no charge, and no resources. For her passive also means no ult charge resources, which means she buffs every other character she tags with, because you will always have their ult up because you're using Lua's for free. If you're not using Lua's ult for free, you're doing something wrong. It's very easy to watch your your status bar and look at your passive to see how close you are to getting the free ultimate. So if you know the order of skills you need to use before you hit your ult key to get the ultimate for free, then you're doing it right. And it's really not that hard. It's a very easy character. You can take Claymore Charge and Shrapnel Rocket. It's very easy to combo Claymore Charge into Shrapnel Rocket and then ultimate for free, all in the same chain. You know, dealing a bunch of damage to one guy, maybe even hitting multiple people with the ultimate, maybe even hitting multiple people with the Claymore Charge and the Shrapnel Rocket into the ultimate. It's just a very, 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 very good character. A very easy character. Broken, maybe. I would just say, I wouldn't say broken. I would just say very good character. Can't go wrong picking this character. Even if you were to go double squishy with Lua, you can take the rocket jump skill that just lets her get out and just hose an enemy. Yeah, it's a good character. It's a good character. Lilu. Wow. No surprise. Lilu right into S tier, right next to Lua. Lilu, very similar character. Has an escape move that gets them... So people mostly play Lilu to push waves and get objectives, not really for team fighting at the highest level. And you don't really have to know how to play like a really high level player to know how to learn Lilu and do those things. Her Bird of a Feather skill just gets her out of anything and helps her travel the map to get the objectives. Really ridiculous. You can push waves, split push all game. Not a lot of characters in this roster other than like Jinxian or a few other dash characters tagging and dashing into another dash character can even catch her. Funny enough, Air Dash can catch Lilu on Jinxian if you time it right. You can do both air dashes while she's in the air and still catch her and kill her. But yeah, most people are taking Talon Swarm and Bird of a Feather to just do the whole map, jungle, and push her lanes. You can play her what I call the cheeser build, where you take her Bird Grab move and Feather Crest and just like CC lock people. It's fun, but you don't do a lot of damage. But that's more of a team play oriented build. So, and even then, she would still stay in S tier if you're doing that with a coordinated team and team fights. So almost no matter what you build, Lilu, she's gonna be up here. So yeah, I mean Lilu, strong character, good ultimate, good skills, good survival skill. Lets her go up terrain like high elevation and evade all attacks. So you can get sights and contest certain higher up things like Tanians and stuff. Yeah, she's good. Ultimate's good, gives sight. It's kind of like Ghost Widow ult, but not as good. If someone tags out and you put Lilu ult on them and harass them more, they're probably dead. So yeah, good, solid character. Vita, S tier, no one's surprised. Vita, all her skills are really good. Her ultimate is way too short. I don't think anybody can disagree on her ult being too short, plus her passive cooldown. We're just hoping that maybe they double the time on her ultimate. But yeah, she just makes the whole team survive with her ult. She can catch incarnates, prevent damage to structures. There's pretty much everything Vita protects and does and damages, and is a very, very useful character. There's not much I can say bad about Vita, except I would say her only niche skill is like Node of Nullification. But I mean, I'm sure there's some practical purposes you might want to take that skill. But overall, you just take her other 3 skills in some combination, and if you're good at her, she feels like she's S plus tier if that existed on this tier list. But yeah, for solo play, you could say like, oh, isn't support less good in solo play? Well, you don't have to play her as a support. I feel like that's the thing about MXM is it doesn't really have true supports, except one character we'll get to later. But yeah, this is a damage focused game. That's why Vita can stay up here. Very good game, or very good character. Moro. Now Moro. People are gonna wonder about Moro. Where does Moro go? That guy's a little annoying, that Moro. Or, for the average player, they're saying, man, this Moro character sucks. I can't play Moro. What's up with this Moro character? He doesn't do anything. His attacks suck. So, for the average player playing Moro and trying to understand the game, I'm going to put Moro in B tier. He's a character that seems like he wants to be a support with some damage dealing, some turret mechanics types things. But he really exists for like high skill players. And players that understand how to split push and coordinated play. But for your average player, he's going to be like here or here. Death Knight, for some reason, got moved down there for too long, for some reason. But yeah, Moro, in the hands of the average player, might even be like here or here. But for the most skilled players, Moro's going to feel like here. If you're using him right for objectives and Titan fights and stuff, Moro's very, very, very strong. But an average player who's picking up the game or doesn't understand the character is going to not get his kit or understand, like, on its own, in a bubble, his kit is not good, but when you use it to play Titan Ruins a certain way, it gets very good. But in a solo play game, you're probably not going to be able to carry on Moro, so he's going to have to probably be down in the B. And that's going to be true for our next character that I'm skipping to, it seems. Bumaro. Pretty much the same thing as Moro. You're just going to try to survive a lot and kind of cheese and like stall out fallen heroes by not letting them cap it, or just pushing waves and hitting towers all game. But a lot of people will play him and think he's not very good, and that makes sense because his kit's weird. But in the context of Titan Ruins, he goes pretty high up there in terms of being able to be a pest and survive and push waves. Most players don't know how to deal with it, so he's going to feel like an S for most. Like, when a good Bumaro plays against you, he's going to feel like he's up here. But an average player playing Bumaro is not going to feel that good, so they're going to drop way low. Kind of has like a similar thing, but I think Moro is worse overall for high skill and team play than Bumaro. Like, that's how I would do that otherwise, but in general play for general players, not a pick that I would recommend you do unless you like playing a certain type of game. I just don't recommend these characters too much. Maybe even here for the general player. But once you learn it, very useful, but most of the time they're not going to be that useful. Um, for what they offer in Titan Ruins. But yeah, so our next character, Mondo Zax. Mondo Zax, kind of the same thing. In coordinated play, your 5-man team playing in a tournament against some other team or something, you're gonna get a lot more value out of Mondo. You can make the whole team invisible in certain situations, and you can absolutely gank the enemy team out of nowhere and pick people off very easily. His shield's also very good and has very low cooldown. He doesn't run out of mana as fast as you would think he does. His barrage does a lot of damage, almost as much as MBA overall in sustained damage, which sometimes makes him feel higher, but his ultimate is not very good. It's probably not as good at first glance. It slows him down, makes him an easy target. Until it's fully upgraded, it's hard to really lock down onto people because the movement of the ultimate is very wonky until you level it up a lot. But he does have potential to be a much higher, stronger character in the right team composition. He's by no means a bad character, and the players that really play him and play him well understand the power of Mondo Zax. But in general play with pickup group and randoms, he's not going to feel that good for you, most likely. But not a bad character by any stretch. I will run the defense for Mondo Zax. He is quite good in competitive play with like people that understand how he works and want to play into it with you. But if they don't, he's just kind of average. I wouldn't beeline for Mondo Zax unless you're a big fan of Mondo Zax. If you really understand the character, he's much stronger, and he plays much stronger. So I'm just kind of saying the same points, but it will make the defense for Mondo Zax. Now Nedian. This is a pretty solid character, pretty solid tank, pretty solid damage dealer, generally annoying character, good tag option for squishies, can stay in fights for long until they run out of mana, and pretty much just can hack away at somebody as much as they please, as long as they don't get attunement advantage too hard by high DPS characters. In coordinated play, you might be able to put them higher, but even then, I think it's just always going to be like a solid A character. Can't really go wrong. It's just a solid character. Mobility-wise, damage-wise, survivability-wise, Nedian has pretty much a little bit of everything going. Really good for PvE as well. Anybody who's played PvE knows that it's like a S or AA in PvE, but yeah, and PvP, Titan Ruins, definitely a solid character. We can put him Nedian in A. Lorraine. Lorraine is a very good duelist in Titan Ruins, funny enough. Can outspeed and evade basically everything you have. Ultimate's very good in team fights and in duels. It's a very, very, very annoying character. I feel like the character was meant to be a pest, and they're quite good at it. I don't think they're broken. They're very annoying. They're very solid. They have great CC. They are mana hungry, but that can be dealt with by tagging and disengaging for a little bit. But overall, she can run around the map, clear waves, be a generally annoying, useful character. Yeah, I don't think she's broken or even S tier. Sometimes she probably even feels like here, but in a team fight, if your team actually wants to do team fights, you're going to get a lot of value out of Lorraine that you might not otherwise get from some other characters who are good in team fights in the general use category, and does pretty solid damage. So yeah, that's where she'll be staying. Poharon, pretty good character. Not quite S or AA, but very solid. Take Blitz Grenade, you have very high burst, very useful, especially against green characters. If you kind of have to take Shoot 'em Up for self peel. Problem is the Shoot 'em Up doesn't work half the time, so she's not going to be able to be AA. But she does objectives like Tanian and Rosark very well just with their auto attack alone. I mean auto attack, but basic attack. And you just basic attack the objectives, or you can Blitz Grenade them if you choose. The only move, if you take Suppressing Fire, I think you take the combination of the 3 other skills in any way you choose. If you take Suppressing Fire, she's probably going to feel like here, honestly, or I won't say unviable with suppressing fire, but I wouldn't say very strong with suppressing fire. So you lose a lot of solid, her solid kit you miss out on if you are taking suppressing fire. So I don't recommend you take suppressing fire. Oh, now people have been waiting for this one. Where's Titus go? I mean, Titus is so bad. Titus is F tier. You in coordinated play, D tier. In solo, random norms or random ranked without a predetermined friends or like any of that knowledge, F tier. This character has cool kit on paper, but none of it really works. His ult charge costs 3, but it doesn't really accomplish much. He doesn't really res himself very well. He just doesn't do anything. I mean, he does stuff. I mean, there are conditions where Titus might be here, but most of the time he's here, and it's just, especially in solo play, you're not going to get a lot of value out of Titus. He's just a hindrance on your tag partner when you play Titus because of his ult and other reasons, and he's not a very good tag into for any reason most of the time either. So he's just kind of a character that just kind of wants to be a dedicated support, but this game isn't really a game that wants dedicated supports. I don't really think that makes him fun either. Doesn't really make him useful. Now, he had cool sound effects and visual effects, but ultimately that doesn't mean anything in gameplay. But again, I think if his healing values and damage values were better, he could be a solid pick somewhere. And I would be super down to see him somewhere up here one day. But until his damage and healing is buffed, he's never going to be. And his ult charge is reduced from 3 to 2, he's just never going to be. So he's just stuck here. It's just what it is. Rip our boy, our funny boy will never quite be anywhere else until he's buffed. Now RMB, very solid character. Even better in coordinated play with his ultimate, may even be here. Not quite there, but his ultimate's very good. If you can coordinate and voice chat with RMB, he's very strong. In solo play, he's very useful. Good lane pusher, good solo nuker, kind of a good duelist, not great against CC. Doesn't have a lot of mobility options unless you take movement speed. Maybe movement speed knows, then he's hard to catch and get to while he's like poking you. But yeah, generally he can split push and team fight from the back line. Very good character. Most people are taking Rams well in the fist. If you take those, he's very solid. The other moves are kind of like silly. If you take those, he goes like here, maybe even here. But if you're good at them, then he won't go below here. But yeah, but generally speaking, just for general play, he's a good burster. Maybe even here, like NBA. But I think just for the average player, he's going to be here or here. Maybe NBA could even be here or here. But I think they're very comparable. But yeah, he basically can stay here. Now Jingtai, very good. You learn this character. Sometimes he feels like he's here, but here because here is like team play, and here is like solo play, a general player, average player. If you learn how his passive works and you time it very well, you can jump around the battlefield and do a lot of stuff, which feels really good and really fun to play. I recommend you try to learn Jingtai if you're gonna play a tank. He does solid damage, but I play him CC focused with fling and sweep aside and just peel for people and jump around the battlefield, do a bunch of stuff. Just be a general nuisance. Jingtai is quite good at that. He can be a good damage dealer too, a good engager. Pretty much Jingtai, he can even clear waves really well because the way his basic attack works. So Jingtai is just one of those characters you can't really go wrong with. So just consider Jingtai for your various needs. He can do it all. Jingtai is quite good. Now Ritlock's a very, very, very easy character to play. He's immune to every other CC. Every second CC he's gonna ignore every first, depending on the way you think about it. And thus he is generally good bruiser stats. He's tanky. His weapon damage, like his basic attack damage, is very crappy, even with the dot. But the thing about him is his ultimate turns his basic attack into one of the best moves in the game. He can do a ton of damage, it only takes one ult charge. If his ultimate wasn't as good, he would probably just not be that good. But since his ultimate is good, he goes pretty much up here. For higher skill players, you might want to take Headshot, and I really wouldn't recommend Hamstring on this character at all. He's gonna like drop way lower with that, even though it does give him good damage. It's just that Savage Leap and I think it's called Savage Leap, but yeah, his jump attack that moves him around the battlefield is pretty good at what it does. And then he can just pistol whip people to stun them and do a ton of damage, and then ultimate them for a ton more damage. So basically, he just jumps around and stuns and does ranged attack damage with his ultimate. That's also skill damage. It converts it into skill damage and does a lot of skill damage if you build skill damage. Did I mention his skill damage? Yeah, very good character. He's like a burst bruiser. That's a good way of explaining him. Kind of had long cooldowns on his stun and his Savage Leap, which is fair, because if he didn't have long cooldowns on those moves, he would just be S+ tier. But the way he is now, he's always going to be a solid pick, especially if you're pairing him because of the attunement system with like a red master or a green master. He's pretty solid. So gotta love Ritlock. Still pretty solid character. Okay, so moving on. We're going to move on to Dr. Raoul. Very, very useful character. He's pretty good in team fights, but in solo play, he's also very good. He's really good at dueling. He's really good at killing minions with Ripper Beam and pushing lanes, and being a pest with his stealth triggers. Overall, he does take a little bit more skill than people give him judgment for. So that might say for your average player, maybe he feels like he's here, especially if they're not taking Ripper Beam and pushing lanes. But if you are, he's going to feel a lot better. If you're picking people off with his jump in on people and just high burst, he's going to feel good. In team play, he might even be better if you're going for the right targets for your team in fights. But generally, he's just a solid character. Can't really go wrong unless you're getting burst. Because again, he's got one of the lowest health pools in the game, so you can get picked off by green burst characters if you're not careful. Unfortunately, attunement system is what it is, so you gotta be careful on that. But outside of that, Dr. Rowe, reliable. Now, Nanarunark, kind of the same problem as some of our other friends. He's very useful, especially if people are picking up your bundles in like coordinated play. But in like solos and like just general play for the average player, he's just kind of solely exists to buff your other master and not really help the team much. His Mega Kina Sail is really awesome for damage burst, surprisingly. So you can pick off targets, but most of the time you're just going to buff up and switch to your other master. So yeah, you mostly just take like Supply Bundle and Mana Stones, and then Enchantment Stones or whatever they're called, and then get to 10 stacks each, switch to your other master, and then you just switch to Nanarunark to like try to run away or you're dying, and then Mega Kina Sail somebody and run some more. But generally, yeah, he just kind of serves to just buff your other master, so he just moves your other master up a tier. That's his whole purpose, is he buffs your other masters so they can be higher tier. You know, in case you want to play super damage Ignuma or something, which I don't recommend you do. I haven't tried it, but I don't know, maybe I'll try it today if I can get a game in today. So yeah, we'll see about that. Next, GX09. GX09 is not currently playable. Maybe one day, just like Yoran, he'll find a way up into here. We really hope to see these characters someday, but today is not that day. Inouin. Inouin is pretty much Sonid. They're interchangeable. They have similar ideas behind their kits. Again, this isn't really ordered. I just wanted to place her next to Sonid because they're like interchangeable. However, I think in team play, thanks to Shot Caller, Inouen can be a better character. Just the way you can time things with shot caller and really burst people or objectives down. But outside of that, she's pretty much the same character as Sonid for picking people off and being kind of like a CC loose type character where they do have a CC and they can get you with it, but they're mostly just trying to poke it from the back, take people out, deal damage. Now, some will argue that Inouen is a better wave clearer, but Sonid could do it with Firecracker as well. It just depends on the game state, on who you want, really, what your team has in mind. But since this is a tier list focused on the individual player, it's just going to focus on your personal playstyle. I prefer Sonid, but I do have fun with Inouen as well. So it's really up to you to determine which character is for you. So it just depends what you want to do. And one's green and one's blue, so that's really the other determining factor, and who you're going to pair that master with. Next is Statesman. So unfortunately, Statesman got giga nerfed. So Statesman used to be like here because he could traverse the map with his charge drop kick, or just drop kick people on the often. But ever since he lost that, he doesn't feel that good in solo play. You can do stuff. His ultimate reset with his skills is really useful still. He can even heal with dull pain, I think it's called, for his team with his ult. It's funny. He's still a funny, useful character. But he's not like a go-to anymore. Like, I can't even put him in A, I don't think, in solo play. But he's still useful. I don't think he's like... He may even be better than like Koom, you know, if I put it in perspective. You can probably put him in A. But I feel like the average player just isn't going to understand Statesman that well, and is going to like suffer more on him because the way he is after his nerf. You basically shouldn't use his dropkick anymore, other than maybe to interrupt like a Poharon ult. But like, and maybe another channelable ult this for his dropkick, but like his dropkick isn't good anymore because it just puts you in a bunch of recovery frames. So you're just basically rapid clicking on Statesman now, which isn't super useful. It's funny when you buff him with Nanu, but that's not really a use case, I don't think. But yeah, in team play, because of the way his ult reset works and you can CC people, he can go to like A or double A, but we'll never see Statesman in S again, I don't think, unless they like rework or revert the nerf. But yeah, I think he's just gonna sit in B the way he is now. Now Tajin, A, solid A character. His ult charge being 3, yes, it is one of the highest damage dealing ults in the game, and it has good duration and good slow on enemies. But it is 3 charge cost ult, which means if you don't pair him with a 1 charge character, he's going to hinder your pairings, and you won't get to use his ult very often, so you just have to like use a combination of his other skills, which he can be like a good support / lane pusher / evasion character with his aura, or you can just use him for pure damage. And I feel like no matter what you do with Tajin, he's going to feel like he's either an A or double A. But most of the time, because of his variance of builds, I feel like he's just going to sit in A. He's got a good survival skill, makes him immune to CC while rolling, and can get you out of some bad situations. And he builds up his survival skill with his basic attack pretty well. So he's just a character that's good at staying in the fight, staying at the edge of the fight, dealing a bunch of damage, getting objectives. Tajin's quite good at it. But obviously he's not a Vonak, and he's not a Lua. So he's just really solid. I mean, some might consider him better than Poharon, but I kind of think they're kind of on the same tier. So I think they're very comparable, but different characters. Titan Incarnate, because that's a Titan Ruins character, S tier. I do think the general player does, and the average player does need to practice with the Titan Incarnate more. But the Titan Incarnate's kit is very, very easy to understand once you read the tooltips and try it out in the practice arena, because you can try it in practice arena and just learn what you can chain together and what your skills do, including his hammer form skills and his hammer form survival skill. And if you chain those properly in the enemy base or in your base to protect it or destroy the enemy base, or any objective really, Titan Incarnate is S tier. I don't think there's anything shocking about that. I mean, it's pretty much a better master than any other master, because it's not really a master, it's like a special thing for the mode. But yeah, I mean, obviously if you're the red Titan Incarnate, because attunement does affect your Titan Incarnate, and Merope ults you and you're red and you don't have your hammer survival skill up, you're just gonna die. So you're gonna be like, oh man, Incarnate is still, like, it's still vulnerable. You can still kill them while they've incarnated. There are situations to do that, and sometimes people run when they should fight instead. It depends on the matchup and the attunement. But yeah, overall, Titan Incarnate is basically a super insane master, but it's not really a master. But yeah, I put it in here because it is Titan Ruins, and you will be using it, and you will be playing as it, and you really should learn how to use it, because once you do, it's basically on par with all our S tier characters, if not better. So please consider the Titan Incarnate when you're playing Titan Ruins, and practice it, because you need to learn how to be good on it. Next is Yuri. Yuri is a solid A character. They're very much a I kill you or you kill me character, and they're very fast at doing that. They often can kill people before they tag, but the other problem is Yuri can also get killed before you tag. So she's kind of a character that really wishes to either kill or trade with the enemy, or maybe even get 2 kills, and then she's kind of done her job most of the time, and then you just tag off of Yuri when you kit dump. She can get cooldowns pretty fast thanks to the way her like passive / survival skill works. So like in some cases, if you're coordinated play, you're assassinating the right targets, she probably fits here. But I think in solo and duels and trying to just gank people, she's definitely like an A pick. I don't think that's too surprising. I think if you don't understand how squishy she is and you think your passive's very good, she's going to feel like more like here. But overall, I think this is a solid character for burst, and you just get in, burst, get out. You know, take some people out and try to reassess the situation and maybe go for some more. And if everyone's low, you might be able to pick them all off. But yeah, she's a burst assassin kind of character, and that's kind of what she's good at. You can pick a variety of her skills, but you're mostly going to take like flanking strike and her flurry and like her ultimate, and just kind of like chain moves on one guy and burst them before they can react. That's what she's good at. Then Arami. Arami's pretty easy. Arami is very easy. She can CC multiple people with her bind. Her bind lasts a while, so if you tag into it on another character, that character's going to get binded for the duration of the bind initial. It's very good. All her moves are pretty good. So it kind of just depends on the player, your play style. You can't really go wrong in solo or coordinated play with Arami. She's a very good character, very good CCs. Sometimes she feels like she's broken, and other times she feels like she's not that good. It's a really hard character to elaborate on. It's just, maybe not elaborate on, but it's a very hard character to determine how good she is. Definitely annoying in norms when there's 2 of them. At that point she's broken, but like and she's definitely broken in 4v4, if anybody's ever played that hardpoint capture. But this is a Titan Ruins tier list, and she's still pretty solid. I would not say broken in Titan Ruins. In 4v4 she is broken, but I wouldn't make changes around 4v4 or 3v3, especially because now in customs for that mode you can have bans. So basically in Titan Ruins, she's still very solid, solid character. And with that, I have that's been my general tier list. Like I said, a lot of these placements change when You're thinking of like you queue ranked into people you're familiar with and know how to play with you, or you queue or you're not queuing but you're playing in like a tournament setting with a pre-made 5v5 or Guild Wars. These placements can definitely change. Some characters get way better, and some characters might drop just because not because they're bad, but because you want to play those coordination characters more in those situations. Titus will probably be here and coordinated, but here in solo play. But yeah, just that's the general vibe that the current iteration of patch 1.4 style MXM looks like, because that's the version that MXM Reborn has right now. Minus zero for some reason. We don't know why, but zero is not playable right now. But going off the knowledge from 2017, 2018, early 2018 before it shut down, this is where I would have placed him. And looking at the footage, but yeah, I still would place him here for solo play. But again, he gets higher. But yeah, that's the general idea for this list. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope I didn't make too many hot takes. I probably could have explained a lot of them more in depth, but I did want to say some of the traps that the characters have, like certain bad moves that you might take as a player who hasn't played that much, and you might assume they're worse than they are because you took not great skills. But when you take the proper skills, this is pretty much how the tier list should feel. I feel like some people may argue that some of these characters are maybe one higher or one lower than they are. But generally, I feel like this is the vibe of the competitive balance, or the balance slash strength of these characters for the average player, and how they should be utilizing them or picking them in your like solo games for power level, for usefulness. So yeah, I'm not gonna ramble and rant anymore. That's pretty much how it is, I think. And I do sometimes feel like something like Merope could be lower, but she is easy to play, so I won't for this particular tier list. But in the future, I may make the coordinated tier list. Once we get tournaments and stuff started again. But for now, I think this is where it's gonna stay for this particular list. And yeah, that's it. See you later.